Hi, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to cover the top 5 reasons why you might not be getting promoted as a data scientist or an analyst. So I'm going to categorize them into 2 categories. 1, it's about you, and 2, it's about them.
I'm Dr. Christy. I'm a researcher and a data science director, and I help analysts and data scientists take their career to the next level.
So there's 3 ways where it might be about you. The first is you're not asking. You gotta ask. I know that seems silly, but I didn't ask initially in my career. Some people don't like to ask. There tends to be this thinking that you just put your head down, work hard, and they're gonna recognize that, and they're gonna see that, and they're gonna reward you. It's like this idealistic view of things. It's just unfortunately not the case. That may happen. I mean, I'm not going to rule it out, but it's highly unlikely that it's just going to come by magic and be delivered to you. That's just not how it works. You got to ask. And you don't have to be aggressive or, cranky or rude or anything. You should be polite, be friendly, all those things, be professional. But you do need to ask, and you need to be clear about what you want and have those proactive conversations, which I cover in one of my other videos about some of the things that you need to prepare as you head in. But you do need to ask and have that conversation. And the other thing I want to say is you don't have to ask like as a surprise to your manager, like show up at the review and say, I need a promotion today. Like, I don't recommend that. I'm actually going to make a separate video on how to have this conversation, so stay tuned, that's coming soon. But in the interim, I'll just share, like, you want to have that conversation early, so at least 6 months to a year before you want the promotion. That's the time to ask for it and have that conversation. And I think that's where some of the confusion comes, because people think it's like you walk in there and you ask for it if you're bold and you get it. That's just not how it works. So 6 to 12 months beforehand, before you want it to kick in, that's when you ask, and you have an opportunity to work with your manager, put together a plan. You can execute on that plan, show the results, and then you've earned that promotion. And it makes sense. If they don't stick to their end of the bargain, you would leave or do something else. But you want to take that approach. You don't want to just show up there at the review and be like, I need a promotion today. So the second way that it might be about you is you're not demonstrating your value. So as I said earlier, hard work doesn't automatically get seen. So first, you got to measure the outcomes for the projects that you're working on. You have to measure that ROI. I have a whole video on that if you want to watch it, but basically you want to be able to capture the impact that you're having and the outcomes that you're driving. Like, you don't want to do a bunch of invisible hard work behind the scenes, which can happen, especially when you're junior in your early career. And in data science and analytics in particular, there is a lot of grunt work and, non-glamorous work like data processing and all this stuff, and you can get stuck with all of that kind of work and nobody sees it, nobody acknowledges it, and then when it comes time for promotion, you don't come across as somebody that's really doing anything that significant. Why? Because you need to be measuring the impact and the ROI of all the projects that you're doing. And then once you have those, you share those with your manager. Your manager can then share that with their manager and the other leaders that are going to be part of that promotion conversation. And so it's just really critical that you figure out how to measure the ROI and come up with those statements, and then how to publicize that and share that more broadly. And the third way that it might be about you is you're just not being visible to other senior leaders. So a lot of times, and I talk about it in one of my other videos, a lot of times people just think it's about their manager. So as long as their manager and they are on good terms, it's fine, they're covered, everything's good. And it puts the burden on your manager to promote you and talk about you. That is a very idealistic world that doesn't actually exist. It might. Okay, I'm not going to rule it out. That might exist for some people. But in general, that's not the case. They're the first person that needs to be on board and recognize you and promote you. But it's a much broader group that's going to decide promotions, and that extends to your manager's manager, the manager of those managers, and a broader group. And part of that conversation is, are you known to those people? Are they familiar with you? Do they recognize your name and who you are and important work that you did and the ROI statements associated with you, which comes back to that you got to measure them, you got to capture them, and then you have to distribute that to your manager and to other people. If they can't tell who you are, they don't recognize your name, they don't associate you with any ROI statements or that you did anything of particular value, it's going to be really hard. Even if your manager really likes you and really wants you promoted, it's going to be very hard for them them to make that case. And that's what you want to keep in mind, is that they have to build a case and you have to build a case for your promotion. And it can't just be like you're nice and people like you. That is a huge part of it. But you also need to be able to talk about the impact and the outcomes that you're driving with the work that you're doing as a data scientist or an analyst. So don't just keep it with your manager. Try to make those connections, try to be in presentations, try to set up coffee chats, try to just talk about the work that you're doing, the impact you're having, and that way it's not easy to push you in a corner and have you not get credit for the really great work that you're actually doing. So now we're going to shift to things about them. So issues with them that are preventing you from getting promoted. Hi, if you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. It's really helpful as I'm a brand new channel getting started and it makes a huge impact. Let's get back to the video. So one is your manager. There may be an issue there where they're toxic or they may be competitive with you or having some sort of issue and they're actually blocking your promotion. So even if you've been working hard, you're measuring ROI, you're connecting with senior leaders, like you're doing everything that you can, you're keeping good relations with your manager, keeping them updated, giving them visibility into how you do your work. There's some issue there and they're actually blocking it from you. That's why it's important to have those conversations. Like my first thing was, you got to ask, because when you ask them, you have an opportunity to evaluate how they respond to you. So if and I talk about this in another video, which you can check out, but if they respond positively and they put a plan in place and they're working with you to actually get you promoted, you're going to know that. Alternatively, if they're like running away from the conversation, they keep postponing it, they never get back to you, they're very vague on the criteria, they don't want to get tied down into specifics, all those things are red flags, and it means that you're likely not going to be promoted. And then at that point, it's better to have that information sooner rather than later, and you can decide what you want to do, if it's fine, if you want to hang around, if you want to look for something else. But that's way better than not having the conversation and hoping that something's going to happen and like not understanding that they are blocking it and they're not ever going to do that for you. And then the other reason related to toxicity is it might be the organization. Like some organizations, they just don't promote people in general, or a select few, a couple of favorites. They have a culture like that, and there's not a lot to do for that. I mean, that's an org you probably would end up leaving, but again, you only find that out when you ask, you do your part, you put together your promotion case, you work with your manager to do that, you measure ROI, you come up with your statements, you do all those things. And if you are getting that response back, but also if you look around and in general promotions aren't happening, or it's for a few favorites, or any of those weird things that happen, it's so much better to get that information now and not just have your hopes up and waiting for something that's never going to happen. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, you can leave some comments down below. That's all I have for today. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.